Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. Before we dive into this heartwarming story, hit subscribe so you'll never miss the most courageous dog tales we share every day. What if the most dangerous creature you knew was simply the most broken? In the resilient heart of Detroit, Michigan, amidst the ceaseless hum of the city, there lay a place where hope often flickered. It was an animal shelter, its air thick with the symphony of barks, whines, and the unspoken yearning for love. Yet, in one particular kennel, a profound, almost eerie silence reigned. Behind cold steel bars, a powerful Labrador mix stood, a formidable presence we'll call Hunter. His golden fur, once vibrant, now clung dull and matted to his lean frame. But it was his eyes that truly held you, not red with aggression, but vast, black voids of endless despair, reflecting a story too painful for most to even contemplate. They called him dangerous. They called him unadoptable. They simply branded him the untouchable. Hunter wasn't just unpredictable, he was a coiled spring, a force of raw survival when cornered. 2 previous owners had been bitten. A brave volunteer at the Detroit Animal Rescue League had required stitches just attempting a routine kennel cleaning. His file wasn't merely thick, it was a devastating indictment of human failure, crammed with photos of shredded leashes, splintered crates, and desperate, stark warnings. Do not approach, extreme caution. How many times have we witnessed someone or something swiftly dismissed, irreversibly written off, simply due to a bad reputation, a string of unfortunate incidents, or a past they had no control over? Hunter carried the crushing weight of a felon's record, yet he had never truly committed a crime against nature itself. He was a prisoner of his past, a silent, burdened figure, unfairly labeled as an aggressor when, in truth, he was merely a victim. Even the shelter's supervisor, a compassionate woman named Brenda, confessed they'd gravely considered the last resort more than once. Yet, an unseen hand always held them back. "He's not evil," she'd whisper, her voice heavy with sorrow. "He's just been through hell." This stark reality mirrors the agonizing decisions many organizations face when confronting misunderstood or traumatized beings, whether human or animal. Beneath the aggression, a deeper, profound pain often festers, unseen. And so, in that quiet corner of Detroit, Hunter waited, not for a new home, but for an ending he surely believed was inevitable. He couldn't know it, but his story was poised to take a dramatic turn, one that would redefine not only his fate, but also the very meaning of hope for everyone who believed some souls were simply beyond saving. The shelter door creaked open, admitting a man unlike any who had come before. This was Julian. He wasn't seeking a playful pup to fetch a ball. He wasn't even entirely sure what he was looking for. A former veteran back from service, Julian carried his own invisible scars, a quiet strength forged in difficult, often brutal places. He intimately understood what it felt like to be judged by appearances, to have your past unfairly dictate your present. He knew the agonizing weight of being written off. Having grown up navigating the complexities of a tough neighborhood and facing his own share of prejudice, Julian possessed a deep inherent resilience that few could match. This profound background allowed his empathy for Hunter to be more than just an act of kindness. It was a genuine, visceral connection. He saw beyond the growls, beyond the scars, piercing through to the raw, wounded spirit beneath. The moment Julian and Hunter locked eyes wasn't a spark of instant friendship. It was a jolt, a powerful, undeniable recognition, like 2 fragmented pieces of a long-forgotten mirror finally seeing their shared cracks. The pain in Hunter's gaze wasn't anger. It was raw, unfiltered survival, and Julian knew that look. He had seen it in the desolate eyes of comrades on distant battlefields, and sometimes, in the quiet, reflective moments, in his own reflection. "Stay away from that one," Brenda the supervisor warned, her voice tight with genuine concern. But Julian didn't flinch. He simply crouched down, his voice a low, steady rumble, not threatening, but undeniably understanding. "I know what it's like to be written off," he whispered, the words hanging heavy in the air. And for the very first time in weeks, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift occurred. Hunter's ears flicked forward. This tiny, seemingly insignificant gesture was a massive twist for the shelter staff, and indeed, for anyone observing, a fragile crack in Hunter's hardened exterior, a sliver of curiosity breaking through years of fear. Brenda, her brow still furrowed with a mixture of hope and apprehension, handed Julian a thick, bulging folder. "Hunter's not like the others," she began, her tone grave. "He's been returned 3 times. He's bitten 2 former owners. He attacked a handler. He nearly broke through a steel gate once." Julian scanned the photos of ripped leashes and injury reports in silence, his expression unmoved. "And still here," Julian said, his voice calm, almost a challenge. Brenda blinked, surprised by his quiet determination. "He doesn't scare me," Julian continued quietly, his gaze steady on Hunter. "Pain does strange things to souls, human or not." This profound statement highlighted Julian's unique wisdom and resilience, echoing the struggles of many in our audience who have faced their own battles against adversity. Brenda hesitated, then, with a sigh, nodded. "If anyone's crazy enough to try, it might just be you." Julian signed the adoption papers, the pen barely leaving the page before the staff exchanged uneasy, almost fearful glances. "You'll need a reinforced leash," one of them cautioned, "and a crate for emergencies." Hunter was then brought out, wearing a thick muzzle, his powerful body tense, every movement slow and calculated. Julian knelt down just once, his gaze locked with Hunter's, and whispered, "Let's go home." The ride was silent. Hunter just stared out the window, his posture suggesting he was bracing for the next inevitable disappointment. At the door to his small, unassuming house in a quiet suburb outside Detroit, Julian paused. He looked at Hunter, then, with a deliberate slowness that spoke volumes of his trust, he gently removed the muzzle. The powerful dog didn't bite. He didn't growl. He simply stood there, waiting. "You're free to leave," Julian said softly, his voice barely a whisper, as he opened the door. "But I hope you stay." This profound moment was a powerful symbol of trust, an offering of freedom, echoing the crucial choices many must make in their own lives when confronted with a new beginning. The first night was anything but peaceful. Hunter, a creature of deep-seated fear, paced the floor for hours, his nails clicking against the wood like a relentless ticking clock. Every sudden sound, a subtle creaking step, the distant rush of a passing car, made him jerk his head, his lips twitching, primal instincts screaming, ready to defend or destroy. Julian, understanding the delicate balance of trauma, gave him space. No commands, no expectations, just patient presence. This period was a profound twist from typical heartwarming adoption stories. It wasn't instant happiness but a raw, agonizing struggle, deeply relatable to anyone navigating their own journey of healing from trauma. Around midnight the quiet was shattered. A lamp crashed to the floor. Hunter, in a moment of sheer panic, had lunged at his own distorted reflection in the glass. Shards scattered across the floor like cruel memories. He growled, a guttural sound of primal fear, cornered himself, his eyes wild with terror. Julian, a calm anchor in the storm, stayed absolutely still, his hands low, his voice a soothing, steady whisper. "It's just you," he murmured. "It's okay now." This harrowing scene served as a powerful metaphor for battling inner demons. Often, our greatest enemy isn't an external threat, but the terrifying, distorted reflection of our past selves. Hunter didn't calm immediately, the panic still evident, but miraculously, he didn't bite either. Later that night, Julian lay on the couch, the lights dimmed, allowing shadows to dance softly around the room. Hunter stood at the hallway's edge, a silent sentinel, watching. Just watching, for nearly an hour. Then, without a sound, a subtle shift. He curled up by the doorway, a testament not yet to trust, but to exhaustion and, perhaps, a burgeoning flicker of curiosity. The next morning, Julian meticulously sifted through Hunter's adoption folder once more. This time, he wasn't looking for warnings, but for understanding, for the pieces of a fragmented past. Inside, nestled amongst vet notes and behavioral reports, was a faded photograph. Hunter as a tiny puppy, ribs starkly visible, chained to a rusted fence post. The documents painted a horrifying picture. One report chillingly described a man who trained Hunter using calculated pain, cruel shock collars, deliberate starvation, and prolonged isolation. Another note detailed how Hunter had once endured days locked in a pitch-black basement, completely deprived of light. The last owner, the report stated, had returned him after a single defensive growl. Too dangerous, the note concluded, unfixable. This deeply disturbing revelation served as a core twist. Hunter wasn't born inherently bad, he was meticulously made that way by human cruelty. Julian closed the folder, his hands trembling slightly, the weight of Hunter's past pressing down on him. Later that afternoon, Julian sat by the fireplace, the incriminating folder still beside him, its contents searing in his mind. Hunter lay across the room, eyes half closed, a picture of weary resignation. Julian didn't speak. He simply looked at him, not with fear, but with something new, something profound. Empathy. "You survived everything," he whispered. the words heavy with respect. Hunter didn't move, but his ears subtly turned toward Julian's voice, a small acknowledgement of the unspoken bond forming between them. This raw emotional connection between Julian's own past struggles and Hunter's powerfully strengthened the emerging bond in the listener's mind. The true breakthrough, however, arrived during a violent thunderstorm. Lightning tore across the sky, followed by a deafening crack of thunder that reverberated through the house. Hunter, instantly triggered, shot up from his spot, his powerful chest heaving, eyes wild with primal terror. His body pressed desperately into a corner, tail tucked, every muscle coiled tight like a spring about to snap. Julian moved with deliberate slowness, careful not to spook him further. He sat cross-legged on the floor, far enough to not threaten, yet close enough to be a comforting presence. "It's okay," he whispered again and again, his voice a soothing balm against the raging storm outside. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift. Hunter crept forward. One paw, then another, trembling with uncertainty, yet moving. He didn't lie beside Julian, not yet, but in a moment that felt monumental, he placed his paw just barely on Julian's knee before retreating slightly. Julian didn't react with a sudden movement or a triumphant smile. He simply let the quiet, powerful silence wrap around them, letting the moment settle. This tiny gesture, seemingly insignificant, was truly monumental. Hunter's very first voluntary act of seeking comfort. This was a profound lesson. Healing is rarely a sprint, but rather a torturous series of tiny brave steps, each one a victory. That night, a significant change occurred. Hunter didn't sleep in the hallway, a place of isolated safety. He lay near the couch, not out of fear but perhaps, just perhaps, out of a fragile, nascent hope. This section truly emphasized that healing is a complex, often messy process, but one that is always, unequivocally, worth the arduous effort. It was supposed to be just a normal evening walk. The sun had just begun its slow descent behind the trees, casting long, peaceful shadows along the quiet street in their suburb outside Detroit. Julian held the leash loosely, a symbol of the growing trust between them. Hunter walked calmly beside him. The dog's posture had noticeably softened over the weeks, less tense, more curious, his once rigid body now fluid and responsive. It felt like progress, a quiet, hard-won victory in their shared journey. Then, the world tilted. A frantic shout ripped through the evening air, echoing from behind a parked van. "Help! Someone's breaking into my house!" Simultaneously, a dark, masked figure darted out of a nearby yard, leaping over a fence with alarming agility, charging directly toward Julian and the screaming man. This was the true twist. The moment everything Julian had painstakingly worked for, every ounce of trust he had nurtured, would be put to the ultimate test. Hunter's body snapped to attention. No hesitation, no command needed, just raw instinct. In one powerful, seamless leap, he placed himself squarely between Julian and the oncoming figure, his teeth bared, emitting a terrifying guttural growl that reverberated through the quiet street. This was the moment of true, undeniable redemption, where deeply ingrained trauma momentarily took a back seat to primal loyalty and protection. The intruder, caught completely off guard by the sheer ferocity, stumbled, tripped, and froze in his tracks. Hunter didn't attack. He simply held his ground, unmoving, his eyes locked on the assailant, a silent, unwavering guardian. Within seconds, the blare of sirens began to swell in the distance as neighbors, alerted by the commotion, frantically called the police. The man, terrified by Hunter's unwavering stance, turned and fled into the fading light. When Julian knelt beside Hunter, his hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline, the powerful dog looked back at him, not wild, not afraid, but calm, certain, his dark eyes reflecting an unwavering loyalty. Julian, his voice thick with emotion, whispered, "You protected me." Hunter, in a profound, tender gesture, licked Julian's hand just once, then settled quietly beside him, his duty fulfilled. That night, the street witnessed a remarkable transformation. A creature once feared as a monster had become a guardian, and the elusive concept of trust finally felt undeniably real. By morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. Word of Hunter's courageous actions had spread like wildfire. The story of the dangerous dog who stopped a break-in was everywhere. Photos surfaced online, Hunter standing tall, eyes alert, Julian faithfully beside him. The story went viral within hours. Headlines screamed, "Feared shelter dog becomes local hero." People who once instinctively crossed the street to avoid them now waved from their porches, a genuine smile on their faces. Some, cautiously at first, even approached, their voices filled with awe, asking, "Is it true? Can I pet him?" Hunter, once rigid and cold, now responded with calm eyes and a quiet, almost shy tail wag, accepting the newfound admiration. The Detroit Animal Rescue League called, their staff truly stunned by the transformation. "We never thought he'd make it," they admitted, their voices tinged with a mix of awe and regret. "We were wrong." Julian just smiled, a quiet triumph in his eyes. "He was never broken," he said softly, looking at Hunter with an unbreakable bond. "Just buried." Hunter hadn't just changed. His extraordinary journey had rippled outwards, touching and transforming everyone else who witnessed it. His story became a powerful, living testament to the profound, almost miraculous, power of compassion, and the incredible innate resilience of living beings. Inspired by their journey, schools invited Julian and Hunter to speak, sharing their compelling tale of overcoming adversity. The impact was immediate and profound. Adoption rates at the Detroit Animal Rescue League spiked, especially for dogs who, like Hunter, had once been cruelly labeled unadoptable. Hunter's story wasn't just a personal anecdote, it became a powerful beacon, illuminating the truth that every single soul, no matter how bruised, how misunderstood, or how deeply scarred by trauma, unequivocally deserves a second chance. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Julian sat on his porch swing, Hunter resting peacefully beside him, a picture of contentment. He gently stroked Hunter's ear, the soft fur a stark contrast to the rough past. "He was never dangerous," Julian said softly, his voice laced with deep affection. "He just learned to survive in a world that never truly gave him a chance." Hunter looked up briefly, his intelligent eyes meeting Julian's, then settled back down with a contented sigh, a silent acknowledgement of his new reality. The world had fundamentally misjudged him, not because he was inherently cruel, but because he had been hurt too many times, too profoundly. Sometimes, the creatures we perceive as the scariest are merely the ones who've been forced to fight the hardest, to build the highest walls, in a desperate struggle to feel safe. This final, incredibly powerful message resonates deeply with anyone who has ever felt misunderstood or burdened by an unjust past. It's a heartfelt call to look beyond the superficial labels, to see the inherent good and boundless potential that lies within everyone, even those society has carelessly written off. Hunter's remarkable journey from a condemned feared dog to a celebrated local hero isn't merely a heartwarming tale of canine redemption. It's a profound universal reminder that every one of us, regardless of our past experiences or the harsh labels unjustly placed upon us, possesses an incredible, innate capacity for growth, for courage, and for unconditional love. It's a story about finding that one person, or that one pivotal moment, that allows our true, unbreakable spirit to finally break free and shine brightly for the world to see. If Hunter's extraordinary story resonated deeply with you, if you've ever felt profoundly misunderstood, or if you've ever bravely given a second chance that ultimately changed everything, please share your own powerful story in the comments below. Let's keep this vital spirit of hope, resilience, and compassion alive and thriving. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more truly inspiring stories of courage and transformation, and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss the most courageous dog tales we share every single day.